McQueen checked his knuckles. Each one tested for mobility, for pain, for readiness. Bruce Lee watched from across the garage, his body coiled like a spring ready to explode. Then McQueen looked up, those ice-blue eyes cutting through the evening light. "You move for beauty, Bruce. I move to end it." The garage went completely silent, except for the ticking of cooling metal. If you respect the real Steve McQueen, subscribe to Steve McQueen Untold Legacy. September 1968. Hollywood Hills, Los Angeles. McQueen's private garage behind his Mulholland Drive compound. Evening sun slanting through dusty windows, casting long shadows across concrete floors stained with motor oil and sweat. The air thick with the smell of leather, old machinery, and two men who'd been testing limits for an hour. Steve McQueen, 38 years old, career at its peak. Bullitt had wrapped 3 months ago. The world was about to discover what real cinematic cool looked like. But none of that mattered here. Stripped down to faded Levi's and a sweat-soaked t-shirt, he was just another man trying to understand the difference between technique and survival. Bruce Lee, 28 years old, compact as a loaded spring, fast as lightning, hungry as a wolf. Not yet the global legend he would become, but already the secret weapon of Hollywood's elite. Teaching Chuck Norris. Training James Coburn. Developing Jeet Kune Do. The way of the intercepting fist. Movement as art, combat as expression. Two different worlds of physical mastery meeting in a space that smelled of motor oil and masculinity. Eastern philosophy versus Western pragmatism. Art versus application. The session had started 2 hours ago with basic conditioning. McQueen's idea. No mysticism. No philosophy. Just fundamental preparation. Push-ups until failure. Sit-ups until pain became irrelevant. Heavy bag work until knuckles bled through hand wraps. McQueen approached physical training the same way he approached motorcycle racing. Find the limit. Push past it. Discover what the body could endure when endurance meant survival. Bruce approached it differently. Every movement flowed into the next. Every strike carried master craftsman precision. Form and function unified into something that looked effortless, but required years of discipline to achieve. "Steve, your hook is strong, but watch the telegraph," Bruce said, demonstrating with shadow boxing that seemed to defy physics. "See how my shoulder moves? That tells your opponent what's coming. Better to flow like water." McQueen nodded but kept throwing the same hook. Hard, direct, no wasted motion. The kind of punch that ended bar fights quickly and decisively. "I hear you, Bruce, but sometimes you need them to know what's coming." "Why would you want that?" "Because knowing what's coming and stopping it are two different things." Bruce smiled with the patience of a teacher who enjoyed intellectual challenges. "But if they cannot read your intention, they cannot defend efficiently. Confusion is superior to intimidation." McQueen hit the heavy bag again. The sound echoed through the garage like a gunshot. "Maybe, or maybe confusion is just another word for overthinking." They moved to sparring. Light contact. Technical work that revealed the fundamental difference between their approaches. Bruce demonstrated combinations that seemed to flow like liquid mercury. Punches that appeared from impossible angles, delivered with precision that suggested years of disciplined practice. Kicks that arrived faster than most human eyes could follow. Everything connected to everything else in a seamless chain of motion that was as much performance as it was combat technique. McQueen's approach was fundamentally different. He waited, absorbed. Let Bruce demonstrate his artistry while studying the patterns with the cold calculation of someone who learned early that survival depended on understanding your opponent's weaknesses before revealing your own. Looking for the exact moment when beauty became vulnerability, when flow became predictability. "You're thinking too much," Bruce said after landing a series of strikes that would have been devastating at full power but were delivered with the control of a master craftsman. "Feel the flow. Let instinct guide technique. Trust your body to know what your mind cannot calculate." "I don't trust instinct," McQueen replied. throwing a straight right hand that Bruce slipped easily, almost casually. Instinct gets you killed. I trust preparation. Preparation is important. But so is adaptability. Water takes the shape of its container while still maintaining its essential nature. Be like water, my friend. McQueen stopped moving entirely, stood perfectly still while Bruce continued flowing around him like a dancer performing for an invisible audience. The contrast was striking. Movement versus stillness. Flow versus immobility. Eastern philosophy meeting Western pragmatism in real time. Water's weak, Bruce. It runs away from obstacles instead of confronting them directly. Water also cuts through stone given enough time and pressure. Persistence overcomes resistance. Stone doesn't fight back. Stone doesn't adapt. Stone doesn't learn your patterns and use them against you. They reset. Bruce demonstrated a complex sequence involving footwork that seemed to teleport him from one position to another. Hands moving in patterns that created openings while closing others. Art in motion. Beautiful, McQueen admitted. Really beautiful. Bruce's face lit up with the satisfaction of recognition. This was why he taught. To share the deeper understanding of combat as expression. Thank you. Now, try to copy the movement. McQueen tried. His version was functional, but lacked the flowing grace that made Bruce's technique art. More mechanical, more direct. Effective, but not elegant. Good power, Bruce observed. But you're fighting the technique instead of becoming it. Relax into the movement. I am relaxed. You're controlled. Different thing entirely. Bruce demonstrated again with increased intensity. This time, the sequence included a spinning kick that ended with his foot stopping inches from McQueen's head. Perfect distance. Perfect control. Perfect demonstration of technical mastery that bordered on the superhuman. The air displacement from the kick ruffled McQueen's hair. That's how close it came. That's how precise Bruce's control was. McQueen ducked slightly, even though the kick was never intended to connect. Instinctive response to perceived threat that came from years of real violence where hesitation meant pain, and pain meant defeat. You see? Bruce said with genuine excitement. The teacher in him thrilled by this demonstration of natural reaction. Your body knew to move, even though your mind understood I would not strike you. This is natural reaction speed. This is what we cultivate and refine through training. My body knew to get out of the way of someone throwing a kick at my head. McQueen corrected with the flat pragmatism that had kept him alive through reform school violence and street fights. That's not mystical, that's practical. But the reaction was faster than conscious thought. This is what we develop through discipline. Or we cultivate not putting ourselves in positions where we need superhuman reactions to survive. Bruce frowned slightly, the philosophical gap between them becoming more apparent with each exchange. Two different approaches to physical conflict. Art versus application. Flow versus force. Steve, fighting is not just about surviving. It's about understanding yourself through physical expression, about becoming one with the moment. McQueen picked up his hand wraps from a wooden workbench covered with motorcycle parts and boxing equipment that had seen decades of honest use, started rewinding them around knuckles that showed the scars of real conflict, street fights in Indiana, reform school violence, motorcycle crashes that taught pain tolerance through necessity rather than choice. Bruce, I respect what you do, really. Your skill is incredible. But for me, fighting isn't expression, it's application, pure and simple. Bruce, I respect what you do, really. But for me, fighting isn't expression, it's application. What do you mean? McQueen tested the wrap tension, made sure each knuckle was properly protected for impact. I mean, when someone comes at me with real intention to cause real harm, I don't want to express myself. I want to stop them. Stopping them can be beautiful. Beautiful doesn't matter if it doesn't work. Bruce stepped closer, the teacher in him unwilling to accept that student wasn't grasping the deeper lesson. But why limit yourself to merely functional when you could achieve functional and beautiful together? McQueen looked up from his hand wraps. Those pale blue eyes had gone arctic cold, the same look that made directors nervous and studio executives reach for antacids. Because beautiful takes time, and time gets you killed. Only if you're not fast enough. Everyone's fast until someone faster shows up. Bruce smiled with confidence born from natural gifts most humans couldn't comprehend. Then be faster than anyone else, or be ready when speed isn't enough. The philosophical gap had become a chasm. Eastern artistry meeting Western pragmatism. Flowing water versus immovable stone. Bruce resumed his movement pattern, flowing from stance to stance like a master calligrapher drawing invisible characters in the air. Every transition perfect. Every technique demonstrated with precision that bordered on superhuman. Watch this sequence, he said, beginning a form that incorporated punches, kicks, blocks, and footwork into something that looked choreographed for maximum visual impact. See how each movement creates opportunity for the next? Nothing wasted. Everything connected. McQueen watched silently, studying, analyzing, looking for the gap between demonstration and application. Bruce completed the form with a series of strikes that ended in perfect stillness. What did you see? I saw someone performing for an audience. The criticism landed like a physical blow. Bruce's expression shifted from teacher to challenged practitioner. Performing? Beautiful technique, perfect form. But you're fighting air, Bruce. Air doesn't hit back. I can adapt any technique for real combat. Can you? The question hung in the garage air like smoke from a discharged weapon. Challenge issued. Response required. Bruce shifted into a different stance. Lower, more compact, less flowing, more rooted. Spar with me. Full contact. See if my technique works against real resistance. McQueen finished wrapping his hands. Tested his fingers for flexibility. Checked each knuckle for proper protection and optimal impact potential. Bruce, you don't want full contact with me. Why not? Because you fight like an artist. I fight like someone who's been in real fights. You think I haven't been in real fights? McQueen stood up slowly. Deliberately. The movement of someone who'd learned early that preparation was more important than speed. I think you've been in fights where you could stop when you wanted to, where rules existed, where someone was watching to make sure nobody got permanently damaged. He checked his knuckles one final time, each one tested for mobility, for sensation, for readiness to deliver or receive impact without breaking. I've been in fights where stopping meant losing, where rules were whatever kept you breathing, where the only person watching was whoever wanted to see you fall down and not get up again. Bruce assumed a fighting stance that was part classical kung fu, part street adaptation, part personal innovation. Ready to prove that art and application were not mutually exclusive, McQueen remained perfectly still. No stance, no preparation. Just standing like a man having a conversation about the weather. Your problem isn't technique, Bruce. Your technique is incredible. Your problem is that you're thinking about how you look while you're doing it. I'm thinking about efficiency. You're thinking about perfection. What's wrong with perfection? McQueen's pale eyes met Bruce's dark ones. Ice meeting fire. Stillness meeting energy. Western directness meeting Eastern complexity. Perfection takes time. And in a real fight, you don't get time. You get one chance to do something that works before someone does something that works better. Bruce launched into a combination that was technique and speed, strikes from multiple angles faster than most could track. Natural talent meeting disciplined training meeting philosophical study. McQueen didn't try to block, didn't counter, just stepped left and let the combination flow past him. When Bruce reset, McQueen was standing where the combination had been aimed, but Bruce was slightly off balance. See, McQueen said quietly, you were fighting where I was. I was thinking about where you were going to be. Bruce smiled with genuine appreciation. Good. Very good. You understand spatial awareness. I understand that beautiful techniques have patterns, and patterns can be predicted. Then, show me technique without pattern. McQueen checked his knuckles one final time. The ritual of a man who'd learned that preparation was the difference between effectiveness and failure, between survival and defeat. I don't have technique, Bruce. I just have intention. Show me. McQueen looked at Bruce for a long moment, measuring, calculating, understanding the demonstration would change their relationship permanently. You sure about that? I'm sure. Steve McQueen checked his knuckles and told Bruce Lee, "You move for beauty. I move to end it." Subscribe to Steve McQueen Untold Legacy for stories they never told you. Titles. Steve McQueen checked his knuckles and told Bruce Lee, "You move for beauty. I move to end it." The day Steve McQueen showed Bruce Lee the difference between art and war. Bruce Lee never expected this reality check from Steve McQueen. Description. This is the untold story of the philosophical and physical confrontation between Steve McQueen and Bruce Lee in 1968. What started as a training session in McQueen's private garage became a masterclass in the fundamental difference between martial arts as expression and combat as survival. McQueen, at the peak of his Bullitt-era fame, challenged Lee's flowing techniques with street-tested pragmatism that revealed the gap between beauty and brutality. When McQueen told Lee, "You move for beauty, I move to end it," he wasn't dismissing Lee's incredible skill. He was defining the difference between fighting as art and fighting as necessity. This moment captured the essence of two legends who approached physical conflict from completely different philosophical foundations. Watch how the King of Cool challenged the future martial arts icon with a perspective that could only come from someone who'd learned to fight not in dojos, but in reform schools and street corners, where technique mattered less than determination. Subscribe to Steve McQueen Untold Legacy for the stories about the real man behind the legend, the stories they never told you.